The Insta360 X4 is an incredible camera that offers a wide range of features and settings. This can be a little overwhelming at first. That's why today I'm going to explain all the features that are important for getting the most out of this camera. At the end, I'll show you which special features the app has. To give you an overview, this video is divided into 20 parts that correspond to the best and most important features of the X4. Like every 360 camera, the Insta360 X4 has 2 sensors and 2 lenses. The fisheye lens is protrude and should therefore be well protected. Of course, you should always store the camera well when you are on the move. For example, in the pouch that comes with the standard packaging. Another way to protect the lenses is to use a rubber lens cap like this one. However, this lens cap is an accessory that you have to buy separately. You can find a link to all the accessories I'm going to show you today in the video description. The standard packaging also includes 2 lens guards, which can be attached and removed quickly and easily. The lens guards have a small blue dot on the outer edge. With this dot facing downwards and slightly to the right, place the lens guard on the lens and turn it slightly to the left until it clicks into place. The small blue dot is now located directly above the microphone hole. Remove the lens guard again by turning it to the right. The lens guards provide good protection for the lens. Under certain circumstances, however, they can also have a slightly negative effect on the image quality. There are also these premium lens guards, which are a bit bigger and can be screwed on in exactly the same way. Personally, however, I prefer the rubber lens cap, which of course does not protect the lens during shooting. You also need to know that you have to activate the lens guards in the camera settings. If you don't do this, it can lead to problems with the stabilization and the lens stitching. I'll show you how to set this up later. The X4 has 2 side doors on the left-hand side. Behind the top side door is a USB-C port, which you can use to charge the camera and connect accessories, for example a microphone adapter or a quick card reader. To attach the microphone adapter, you need to remove the door by simply pulling it out. The bottom door is the battery door. To open it, press the 2 locking buttons inwards at the same time. The door should now automatically spring outwards slightly together with the battery. To reinstall the battery, simply push the door back in again, ensuring that no red field is visible on either button. Otherwise, the camera is not waterproof. Once you have removed the battery door, you will find the SD card slot on the left-hand side. To ensure problem-free operation, you should use a very fast SD card, such as this one from Insta360. The card should have a rating of at least UHS 1 and V30. You install the card by pushing it into the SD card slot with the label facing inwards. Now insert the battery again with the arrow pointing upwards and the camera is ready to shoot. Before we switch it on, I would like to briefly show you the buttons on the camera. The X4 has a total of 4 buttons, 2 on the side and 2 at the bottom front. The top button on the side is the power button. This is used to switch the camera on and off and to activate the standby mode. The lower button on the side is the quick switch button. This allows you to call up a preset quickly and easily. The button on the front left is the capture button, which you use to start and stop a recording. The button on the right is the mode button, which you use to change the shooting mode. On the underside of the camera, you will find a 1/4 inch thread. This allows you to attach the X4 to various mounts. The ideal mount for a 360 camera is a selfie stick, also because it is automatically removed from the shot when taking 360 shots. If you don't have a selfie stick yet, I recommend this 114 cm long one from Insta360 to get you started. It's important that the selfie stick is mounted straight on the camera, because only then will it be automatically removed from the shot. You should therefore always hold your X4 straight when taking 360 shots with the stick. If you use it with a bent stick or mount it like a classic action camera, you will not achieve the desired and cool invisible selfie stick effect. There are of course a number of interesting mounts for the X4. If you are interested in finding out which are the best mounts for this camera, then watch my corresponding video. I'll put a link to it in the video description. Okay, let's turn on the camera. As I said, you do this with the power button on the side. You have to activate your X4 at the beginning, and to do this, you have to connect it to the Insta360 app. And you don't just need the Insta360 app to activate the camera for the first time. You also need it to update the firmware. The app also has a number of extremely useful and necessary features. You start the app and connect your camera by tapping on the camera icon at the bottom center. As soon as the camera is connected, you can activate it. The app will also let you know if a new firmware is available, and you should install new updates immediately. Updates don't just fix bugs. New features are also constantly and continuously added. If you tap the camera icon again, you can fully control your X4 via this interface. You can select the recording mode, change the settings, and of course start a recording. Via Album, you can watch and edit your recordings. I will show you the most important editing steps a little later. You can use the edit icon to add very special effects to your recordings, and you can also create a clip from several recordings here. More on this later. For now, let's take a look at how to use the camera. If your X4 is in standby mode, briefly press the power button on the right to wake up the camera. If you swipe from top to bottom, the settings menu opens. If you swipe from the left edge to the right, you will see an overview of your recordings. You can play, mark and delete them here. And very interestingly, you can also transfer them directly to your smartphone with a tap using this icon here. If you swipe up from the bottom, you can adjust the basic recording settings. That is resolution and frame rate. Swiping from the right edge to the left opens the menu with the more advanced capture settings. We will take a closer look at the most important of these settings today. If you tap on the small icon at the bottom right, you can change the lens. Here you can again set the resolution and frame rate. And very importantly, if you tap on the small camera icon at the bottom left, you can select the shooting mode. As mentioned, you can also change the shooting mode by using the right front mode button. And when it comes to the shooting mode, you have to make a fundamental decision. The X4 can take shots in 360 mode or in single lens mode. If you shoot in 360 mode, the camera merges the shots from the two lenses into one 360 shot. You can export and use such a shot as a 360 shot, but more often you will select the optimal framing from this 360 shot and then create a classic video clip from it. Being able to select the optimal framing in post is a huge advantage. However, you must be aware that you cannot use a 360 shot directly, but must always edit or export it before you can use it. You can do this in the smartphone app or in the Studio desktop app. I will of course show you how this works. However, if you shoot in single lens mode, you use the X4 like a classic camera, for example an action camera. In this case, the camera only records with one of the two lenses. It's therefore important that you select the right lens before taking the shot. As already mentioned, you can do this via the icon at the bottom right. You can tell which mode is currently active by the image format in the display. You can recognize the single lens mode by the black bars at the top and bottom, at least when the 16:9 format is set. And there's something else you should be aware of. There is no invisible selfie stick effect in single lens mode. The camera works like a normal action camera. You have to hold it during the shot so that the framing is optimal. And depending on the situation, you will also see the selfie stick in the shot. When shooting in 360 mode, however, the selfie stick is automatically removed from the shot. You don't need to do anything for this. This is an automatic feature of a 360 camera. The only important thing is that you have mounted your selfie stick straight on the camera as mentioned earlier. You don't have to hold your camera like a conventional camera when taking the shot. You will then select the correct framing in post. Rather, you should already take into account during the recording that the selfie stick will disappear from your shot and hold your arm or hand in such a way that the result does not look strange. Whether in 360 mode or in single lens mode, you can choose from different shooting modes. Please don't be overwhelmed by the many features of this camera. In most cases, you will only use the most important shooting modes. I will now show you which of these are. Of course, the most important recording mode is the standard video mode. In addition to the standard video mode, there is also a photo mode, an HDR photo mode, in which shots with different exposures are combined to achieve a higher dynamic range. There is also an interval mode, where photos are taken at certain intervals, for example every 5 seconds for 3 minutes. You can then use the individual photos to create a time-lapse shot, for example. In burst mode, several photos are taken in succession at very short intervals, for example 15 photos per second. You use this mode if you want to capture a very fast movement, for example during sport, and don't want to miss the perfect moment. With Starlapse you can take a time-lapse shot of the starry sky, and you can choose loop recording if you want to use your X4 as a body cam or dash cam. Here you start a recording, and as soon as you stop the recording, the camera only saves the last 5 or 10 minutes. So you stop your recording shortly after something important has happened, and then you have saved the right moment. The next 3 shooting modes are more interesting for me personally. Bullet time creates a very special effect. For this, you mount the camera on a dedicated bullet time mount and then rotate it horizontally in a circle. The result is a particularly cool effect, as you can see here. You should therefore keep the bullet time mode in mind, but you need a suitable mount for it. And the X4 is also an excellent camera for taking a time-lapse shot or a hyperlapse. As you can dynamically change the framing in post, the X4 makes for particularly interesting time-lapse shots. For a time-lapse shot, you should not move the camera during the shot and therefore mount it stably on a tripod. In the case of time shift, on the other hand, A time-lapse shot is taken in motion and then stabilized by the camera. You should also keep your camera as stable and still as possible and move in straight or regular lines. The result is a cool hyperlapse shot. But let's get to the two most important shooting modes, the video mode and active HDR. Similar to HDR photo, in the case of active HDR, different exposures are combined. The result is a shot with a particularly high dynamic range. This means that significantly more detail is retained in the very bright and very dark areas than in the standard video mode. The highlights in particular, so the very bright areas, are better protected. However, as this recording mode also has disadvantages in terms of image quality, I only recommend it if you are faced with particularly difficult recording situations. So if there are particularly bright and particularly dark areas in the same image. Normally, you will achieve better results with the standard video mode. And since you'll be using the standard video mode in most cases, you'll want to master the settings in this recording mode particularly well in order to achieve optimum results with your X4. That's why I'll now explain to you exactly how you should set your X4 in video mode and what effects the individual settings have on the image and image quality. The most important settings concern the resolution and the frame rate. In 360 mode, the highest possible resolution is 8K. You have to imagine it like this. Two 4K recordings from the two lenses are merged into one 8K image. Since you still have to edit the recording in 360 mode and choose the right framing, this 8K recording will be heavily cropped in post. That's why it's important, especially with 360 shots, to choose the highest possible resolution. Only with a recording in 8K will the result of the reframing be a high resolution recording. But of course, the 8K resolution doesn't come without disadvantages. The X4 consumes a lot of energy at this resolution, so the battery will not last as long. And there's a risk of overheating if it's very warm and you're not moving during the recording, so if there is no airstream. In addition, recording in 8K generates larger files. Your memory card will therefore fill up more quickly. This is one of the reasons for the new resolution of 5.7K+. With this resolution, the image quality is only just below the image quality of a recording in 8K. However, the files are around 30% smaller than in 8K. Due to a different video processing technique, the image quality is better than in 5.7K, whereby the files are slightly larger. In terms of image quality and file size, 5.7K+ therefore lies between 8K and 5.7K. If you only use your recordings for social media or only watch them on your smartphone, then a lower resolution of 5.7K is usually sufficient. And very important, in low light conditions, so in the evening or indoors, you should also do without 8K or 5.7K+, because in these situations you will achieve better image quality in 5.7K. In all other cases, so in good lighting conditions and if you want to get the best possible image quality and frequently watch your recordings on a large monitor, I would definitely recommend 8K, especially if you have enough storage space. In 8K, just like in 5.7K+, the frame rates 24, 25 or 30 are available. A low frame rate of 24 or 25 frames per second is considered particularly cinematic, as professional movies are shot at this frame rate, whereby 25 frames per second is intended for the PAL region, which would be most countries outside the US and Canada. Whether 24 or 25 frames per second, such a frame rate has the disadvantage that it creates a very choppy look when the lighting conditions are good and there is a lot of movement. For a slightly smoother look, you should use 30 frames per second. And this is also my recommendation for most users, because in the case of an action camera, it's usually not about creating a cinematic look. Rather, you want to capture your experiences as naturally as possible. A recording at 50 or 60 frames per second looks even smoother than at 30 frames per second. You can also create a slow motion of 40 or 50% with 50 or 60 frames per second. However, such a frame rate is only available in the reduced resolution of 5.7K. For particularly cool slow motion shots, you should reduce the resolution to 4K and shoot at 100 frames per second. But don't forget that you still have to reframe the shot. Shooting at this setting will therefore result in a greatly reduced image quality. Therefore, only use 4K 100 if you really need a slow motion recording. A high frame rate of 50, 60 or 100 frames per second also has disadvantages in poor lighting conditions. In these situations, you should therefore not use a frame rate above 30. To summarize, use 8K 30 for optimum image quality in good lighting conditions, 5.7K+ mainly to save storage space, 5.7K 30 in low light and 4K 100 for slow motion. If you tap on this icon, you can set the field of view. In 360 mode, you can choose between Mega, Ultra and D-Warp. The field of view Mega is very wide. In addition, the distortions caused by the camera's fisheye lenses are partially reduced. In my opinion, Mega is a good choice for most outdoor and sports shots. For vlogging, you should choose D-Warp. With D-Warp, the image is cropped somewhat, but the distortions are reduced even more. However, the correct setting for the field of view is not so important in 360 mode when recording, as you can still change it freely in the app in post. For the advanced shooting settings, swipe from the right edge to the left. Here you can set the exposure completely manually. However, I only recommend this in exceptional cases. I therefore usually use the automatic exposure. Here in the top line are a few very important settings that you should definitely know. The X4 has 3 color profiles. In addition to a standard color profile, there is vivid and a flat color profile. In most cases, I use the standard color profile. It produces beautiful, natural and high contrast images. You should choose vivid if you want a little more saturation and don't want to color grade your shots, but need eye-catching and very high contrast shots for social media. Personally, this is a bit too much for me. If on the other hand, you want to edit the colors of your shots, then you should choose flat. Flat has very low saturation and little contrast. It is therefore better suited for color grading than the other 2 color profiles. However, you should be aware that you will have to edit each shot in post. You cannot directly use a shot that you have taken with flat. As I said, in most cases, I leave the setting at standard. You can use EV to correct the automatic exposure. You can specify here whether the shot should be exposed slightly brighter or darker. This can be particularly useful if the automatic exposure results in overexposed areas in the image. To prevent such burnt out highlights, you could set a slightly negative value here, for example -0.3. This can be very helpful, as burnt out highlights can no longer be corrected in post. In poor lighting conditions, the camera will increase the exposure time. This results in more motion blur. This in turn has a very negative effect on the image stabilization. Your shot may therefore look blurred if the lighting conditions are bad. If you want to get a particularly stable shot, even in such cases, you should activate low light stabilization. But be careful. This will lead to more image noise and poorer image quality. In most cases, you can leave the white balance and the exposure mode set to auto. Once you have found your optimum recording settings, you can save them as a preset. This way, you can call up your settings quickly and easily when you need them. And of course, you can also quickly switch back and forth between different presets. To do this, press the lower button on the right-hand side of the camera, the quick switch button. You can use this button to easily switch between your presets. As soon as this menu is open, tap the plus button on the far right to create a new preset. Here you can select a name. For example, customize. Your new preset now contains all the settings that are currently active. If necessary, you can still make changes. Finally, tap on Add Preset and you will now find your preset in the list of the saved presets and can activate your settings quickly and easily. Let's start a recording. You do this with the capture button at the bottom left. You should also know a few important things in this context. To start a capture, you must only press the shutter button very briefly. If you press it for too long, the X4 will not start recording. As soon as you have started the recording, you can use the flag on the left to mark highlights, so particularly important and interesting moments in the recording. This has 2 advantages. You can find these moments very quickly later in the recording, and the highlights are taken into account by the app's auto edit feature, which you use to have the app automatically create a quick clip from several recordings with the help of AI. You can stop the recording by briefly pressing the shutter button again. If you have started a recording that has failed, you can delete it again immediately. You can do this by pressing and holding the shutter button while recording. Now the recording is not only stopped, but also deleted immediately. We have now taken a shot in 360 mode. As you already know, you have to edit every 360 shot and select the correct framing. You can do this with the smartphone app or with the Studio desktop app. You should be aware that some features are only available in the smartphone app. However, the desktop app also offers a decisive advantage, but more on that later. As soon as you have connected the camera to the app, tap on Album and select the clip you want to reframe. The clip is now played back automatically. You can start and stop the playback with a simple tap on the screen. The smartphone app contains a variety of features for editing your clips. For now, I will only cover the basic features that are important for reframing. There are 3 methods for reframing a 360 recording in the app. If you select AI, the app will automatically create various reframed clips from your recording with the help of AI. To do this, tap on the icon with the hat. Your recording will now be analyzed and different clips will be created depending on the recording. There are drafts, clips with different views, and here you will find a montage of different scenes with music. So this is a fully edited clip that you can share immediately. It's important that you select the correct format here above. So if you want a vertical recording in 9:16, a horizontal recording in 16:9, or even a recording in the widescreen format 2.35:1. If you like a clip, mark the clip and then export all your marked clips. With Quick, on the other hand, you can easily reframe the clip yourself. You will find a record button at the bottom. Move to a point in the recording where you want to start your reframed clip and then tap the record button. The shot will now be played back and you can set the framing by moving your smartphone or by changing it with your finger or by using the cross control. You can make continuous changes during the recording, or you can also have the subject tracked automatically by tapping on the green icon above the subject. As soon as you have finished reframing, stop the reframing recording function. Here at the bottom left, you can view your reframed clips again and edit them if necessary. If you are satisfied with the result, you can export your clips. Of course, you must not forget to set the correct format beforehand, even when using the quick feature. And there is also a pro reframing feature which gives you even more freedom. At the bottom you will find the timeline of your clip. You can zoom in and out on the timeline with 2 fingers. And by swiping your finger on the screen, you can select the optimum framing. As soon as you are happy with the framing, tap on the plus to set a keyframe. The keyframe is represented by a white circle with a small yellow dot in the middle. As soon as you have set a keyframe, you can also select the field of view at the top. For example, Mega View, Ultra Wide or D-Warp. You can then use 2 fingers to additionally zoom in and out. Personally, I use Mega or D-Warp and then adjust the viewing angle a little more precisely with 2 fingers. The optimum framing could change during the course of the recording. You can define a new framing at a later point in the recording and set another keyframe. The framing will then change evenly between the first and second keyframe. If setting keyframes is too cumbersome for you, you can also have your subject tracked automatically here. The part with the tracking is now displayed in green. Similar to a keyframe, you can tap on it and adjust the field of view again. The automatic tracking works perfectly and saves you a lot of time. Finally, you should trim your clip so that the unnecessary parts are removed. There are a whole range of other editing options available here. You can edit the color, add music or motion blur, and also set a highlight, for example. Once you are happy with your clip, you can download it to your smartphone or export it in a specific quality and resolution. As you can see, you can edit your clip in a variety of ways here. The most important thing, of course, is the reframing, which is very easy. And the app also has a number of other absolutely useful and interesting features. But I'll show you these a little later. For now, let's take a look at the Studio desktop app. The desktop app has a decisive advantage, which I'll show you in a moment. There are several ways to transfer your files. Of course via the SD card or simply by connecting your camera to your computer using a USB-C cable. Once you have done this, switch on the X4 and you can now choose between U-Disk mode or reverse charging. Select U-Disk mode and your X4 will be recognized as a separate drive. Now open your recording in the Studio app. In the Studio app there is a Media tab for reframing individual clips and there is a Project tab containing the features of a proper video editing software. Here you can put several clips on a timeline, reframe them, add transitions, music and titles. Whether in the Media or Project view, you can select the optimum framing in the Studio app using the mouse. Of course, a tracking feature is also available here. While the desktop app lacks a few of the smartphone's editing features, there are 2 features that are only available here. In the Studio app, you can make the transition between 2 keyframes a little more organic. Normally, the framing is adjusted evenly from the first keyframe to the second keyframe. This looks a little unnatural. To make it more dynamic, tap on the line between the 2 keyframes and select one of the options here. I usually like fade in, fade out best. When you have finished editing, export your clip. You get the best possible quality with ProRes. And this option is also only available in the desktop app. But be careful, although ProRes produces the best possible image quality, it also creates very large files. If you want to take a quick shot and don't feel like reframing, as I said, you can also use the X4 in single lens mode. Here too, I recommend the highest possible resolution for video recordings, which is 4K. In contrast to the 360 mode, in single lens mode, you have to set the format and the field of view before shooting. Only if you select the free frame video mode can you change the field of view and the format in post. Similar to 360 recordings, however, you then have to open these recordings in the app and select the format. I therefore rarely use the free frame video mode on the X4. For a horizontal shot, you select a typical format of 16:9 and for a vertical shot the format 9:16. The standard field of view in single lens mode is ultra wide. Of course, the fisheye lens of the X4 produces distortions. If you want to reduce the distortion, situations, for example when vlogging, you should use de-warp. However, this also leads to a slight crop of the image. Action view, on the other hand, produces slightly more distortions than ultra-wide, but the field of view is even larger, especially vertically. Action view is therefore particularly suitable for POV shots, so if you attach your X4 to a chest mount or a helmet. Apart from that, the advanced recording settings are of course also available in single lens mode. Don't forget that in single lens mode, you have to determine the correct framing already when shooting. You must therefore hold the camera at the correct angle. But the X4 also offers a very special feature in this context, the Me mode. Although the Me mode is a single lens recording mode, you use the camera like a 360 camera, meaning that you do not have to worry about the correct framing when recording, and you attach the X4 to the selfie stick just like in 360 mode. That is straight. The camera now automatically recognizes where the subject is in the framing and creates a corresponding clip. The editing step of reframing is therefore no longer necessary. The reframing is carried out automatically by the camera. As this is basically a 360 shot, the selfie stick is also removed from the shot. The Me mode enables recordings with up to 4K and 30 frames per second. Unfortunately, there is one restriction. If you shoot at more than 2.7K and 30 frames per second, the recording is only stabilized in the app. So you also have to open these Me mode recordings in the app and then save or export them, but you don't need to reframe them. If you want to use your clip immediately without opening and stabilizing it in the app first, you must shoot at a maximum of 2.7K and 30 frames per second. Don't forget that in this case, you also need to set the right format and field of view when recording, similar to a standard recording in single lens mode. You should definitely keep the Me mode in mind. It works particularly well for vertical shots for social media and is very useful. Before I show you the additional features of the smartphone app, we need to take a look at a few important features in the settings menu. To do this, swipe down from the top edge. On these two pages, you can quickly turn important features on and off. I'll explain the most important ones now. If you have installed lens guards, you must activate them here. There is also an automatic function that automatically detects installed lens guards. If you want to be on the safe side, you can activate the lens guards manually and deactivate them when you take them off again. We'll see in a moment that the app is able to use AI to automatically create a cool clip with music from several shots. If you have activated the AI Highlight Assistant feature here, the camera during recording analyzes in real time where the subjects are in the frame and whether there are any important and interesting moments. The camera then marks these moments as highlights and uses them when automatically creating a clip. This can be very useful. However, please note that this function requires a relatively large amount of energy, so if you don't need it, you should deactivate it. The X4 not only offers voice control, but also gesture control. You can start and stop a recording with a hand gesture, and you can take a photo with the peace sign. This also works when wearing gloves. The camera also recognizes the voice commands start recording, stop recording, take a photo or shut down camera. The next function is particularly important. If you have activated quick capture, you can start a quick recording by pressing the shutter button when the camera is switched off. You can also specify which type of shot should be started in such a case. This feature is very useful because it allows you to start recording immediately if something important happens. I would therefore definitely activate it. With timed capture, you can schedule a recording. This can be useful for planning a time-lapse recording, for example. So for example, if you don't want to get up in the morning but want to capture the sunrise. Via this icon, you can connect Bluetooth headphones, for example AirPods, and then use them like an external microphone. However, you shouldn't expect too much from the audio quality. You can also connect other accessories via Bluetooth. For example, a remote control. Insta360 offers a GPS preview remote, which not only captures the GPS data, but also has a fully functional display. This allows you to control your X4 from a distance and also change settings. And you can also connect the X4 to a Garmin or Apple Watch, which will capture the GPS data and add it to the recordings. If you open the settings menu here below, you can change various basic camera settings or format the SD card. However, there are also two recording settings that you should definitely be aware of. For optimum image quality, the bitrate should always be set to high. Although this also leads to larger files, this is the only way to ensure that as much data as possible is captured. Like every digital camera, the X4 also increases the contrast at the edges to emphasize the details in the image. If this is overdone, the shot will look digital and artificial. For this reason, I would set the video sharpness to a maximum of medium. You can also set it to low, but the recording will then look very soft and you will have to add sharpness in post. I think you now know everything you need to know to use your X4 correctly and optimally. But I would like to show you a few more interesting and useful features of the app. The Insta360 app is definitely one of the great strengths of all Insta360 cameras, and apart from reframing and editing your clips, it also contains a few cool effects and features. To access them, tap on Edit at the bottom right. Under Shot Lab, you'll find a variety of interesting effects that you can quickly apply to your X4 clips. Some of them are gimmicks, others lead to absolutely cool results. For example, I would recommend Sky Swap to start with, which allows you to automatically replace the sky of your shot, or Fly Labs, which simulates the recording of an FPV drone. If you tap on Create a Video, you will open a complete video editor. Here you can create a cool clip from your footage and add music and titles. If that's too complicated for you, the app also offers an auto-edit feature that automatically creates a clip from your recordings using the saved highlights and AI. To do this, simply select the recordings you want to use, decide on a duration, and then select a theme. It works surprisingly well. Definitely give it a try. I hope you have lots of fun with your X4. If you're still interested in what the best mounts and accessories are, then take a look at my corresponding video and give me a like as feedback if you found this video interesting. There will be more tutorials on the X4, so stay tuned and see you next time.